We're now in line to wait for this show and it's going to be amazing. I cannot wait.
We're about to see the show.
Let me tell you a story, little one. Long, long ago in the dreaming, there came a falling star of great force named Bira. Bira fell from the sky and created the body of an eagle. The eagle was Bunjil. Bunjil was the creator spirit of all. As Bunjil soared, he created Gunagili, the sky. And as he circled and circled, he looked down and saw there was nothing, nothing at all. Swooping down from the sky, Bunjil blew air from his beak and created Mother Earth. He then created all living things, trees, mountains and animals, including Mindy the snake, Ingalinga the echidna, and Wang the crow.
Did Bunjil make any other birds?
Bunjil made a dazzling rainbow here and shattered into many pieces. Each piece of the rainbow had its own colours and turned into a beautiful bird. As they were created, the birds, each with their own spirit, sang with joy as they flew down to the earth.
From the dream time until today, people have watched birds fly and marvelled at their beauty, their grace and their power. Australia is fortunate to be the home of over 750 bird species, many of them unique to our land. From large predatory birds to rapid flashes of colour, birds fly around our farms, share our suburbs, keep watch over our cities, visit our gardens and enrich our lives. From ancient times until today, these spirits of the sky have inspired our imagination and wonder.
Wondershare and welcome to Spirits of the Sky here in Healesville Sanctuary.
The birds that we're meeting today are flying on the traditional lands of the Wondershare people, and we'd like to acknowledge the connection that our First Nations people have had to this land that spans many thousands of years. Hi, my name's Jason.
G'day, I'm Louise.
And some of you might know that Australia is known as the land of the parrots. Now, one of the reasons for that is because we actually have 56 different species of parrots that live here in Australia. Before I start talking about the parrots, I'm going to just talk about the birds that are up there that everyone's pointing at. Can you all see those big birds that are flying up there? Does anybody know what they are? Yeah, they're the wedge-tailed eagles. That's a pair of wild wedge-tailed eagles that have decided to make Healesville Sanctuary their own property. They're flying around. It's territorial behaviour that these birds are hanging around, trying to make sure that none of our birds are going to steal any of their territory, any of their food. While those birds are up there, some of our birds are a little bit nervous about having those wedge-tailed eagles up there for a pretty good reason. They're our top predators here in Australia. They're our largest bird of prey. And they hunt pretty much anything they can overpower, which is pretty much anything up to the size of an adult wallaby. Jesus. All by themselves. So it's pretty understandable that some of our birds get a little bit nervous about having those eagles flying up above them. So part of the training that we work with our birds, and the way we do work with our birds, we give our birds the choice and control whether they want to come out or not. It's totally up to them. So while those eagles are around, we do see some different behaviours with our birds. Sometimes our birds just come out and say, there's no way I'm flying out there. Not a chance with those eagles up there. So we'll give it a bit of a go. They've headed off a fair way out. I think they're up high enough. We can give our birds the option to come out, but just please be patient with us and patient with our birds. We never know what they're going to do from day to day, particularly when those eagles are around out there. So we'll see what happens. We might have a really interesting show. We never know, it always changes from day to day. So we'll see how we go anyway. But as I was saying, we do have 56 different species of parrots that live here in Australia. They can be found across most of our different habitats. Lush rainforest habitats, open woodlands, even the dry heart of Australia here in the desert regions. We have many parrot species that will survive there. And we've got some parrots that do really well living alongside people, others that aren't doing so well. This one here is one of the prettiest birds in the world. I think this one is one of the birds that actually lives in the desert regions of Australia. This is a pink cockatoo. And they do live through that really hot, dry environment of Central Australia. They start from about northwestern Victoria and go right through over into Western Australia. But you can see absolutely beautiful looking bird. You can work out why they're called pink cockatoos. If he does choose to fly across to the other side, watch when he lands, you'll see that beautiful crest. He'll raise that crest, absolutely stunning looking bird. And that calling is telling us that there's an eagle up there. Hey, just be careful, there's wild eagles flying around. Now that crest is what makes the difference between a cockatoo and the other parrots. All the cockatoos have a crest. Not as pretty as this one in particular, but they all have a crest of some sort, and that's what makes the difference between a cockatoo and the other parrot species. Now these pink cockatoos are a bird that do a lot of foraging on the ground. When they're up through the desert regions of Australia, they get on the ground and they forage for all sorts of things. There's a lot of grass seeds and things like that on the ground. They use that big beak, which all our cockatoos in particular have really big, large, powerful beaks. They use for breaking into food, into big seeds and nuts that they need to break into. But the interesting thing about the beak is they actually use it as a form of locomotion as well. It actually helps them to climb through the trees. So it gives them an extra appendage they can actually pull themselves up through the branches and through the trees. So that beak is really important, not just for breaking open those seeds and nuts. Now, a lot of the birds we're going to meet today need really large territories to survive, and more importantly, those really large territories, they need to include our old growth forests, so really big old trees. Now, most of the parrots in Australia actually nest in tree hollows. And for those of you, and most of you will have seen cockatoos before, like this one here, this is the red-tailed black cockatoo. You can see they're really, really big birds. Now, because they're big birds, they need really big old trees to be nesting in. In fact, a tree for a red-tailed black cockatoo to nest in, that tree needs to be about 200 to 250 years old. And unfortunately, it takes just a few minutes to destroy those trees. Now, we are running out of those big old trees for the red-tailed black cockatoos, and I'm not sure if any of you can work out how long it takes to replace a 200-year-old tree. Somebody just got it. It's a really long time, about 200 years. So if we don't do something about it now, it's going to be way too late. They're going to run out of those trees. Now, we're lucky enough in Australia to have 5 species of black cockatoos here in Australia. These red-tailed black cockatoos that would normally be found here in southeastern Australia are actually a threatened species now. They're found on the western side of Victoria, about the west of the Grampians, about the best place to find them. There's only about 1,500 red-tailed black cockatoos left in Victoria, so they're one of our threatened species. One of the reasons for that is not just losing their tree hollows, but they're losing their feeding trees. They actually only feed on around about 3 or 4 different species of trees. That's it. It's all they get their food from. So they're losing food trees and nesting trees. It makes it really, really difficult for a species to survive out there. But one of the prettiest birds. Quite often you'll hear the red-tailed black cockatoos or the black cockatoos before you see them. They usually hang around in family groups and they talk to each other the whole time. But not all our cockatoos and all our parrot species are doing poorly out there. There's some birds that have done really well out there in the wild. They've learned to live alongside people really well. This is one of those. Some of you will have seen these before. In fact, most of you will have seen them. Have that soft yellow wings. And of course, that amazing yellow crest where these birds get their name from. This is a sulphur-crested cockatoo. This one's name is Quasi.
Yeah.
Now, sulphur-crested cockatoos are one of those birds that have learnt to live alongside people, and you can see them in things like parks, gardens, golf courses, sometimes even in our busy city streets. And they're one of the birds that can live for a really long time. They're known to live to up to about 100 years old, but the other thing with these birds is how loud they are. I think some of you have probably heard a sulphur-crested cockatoo call before. They are incredibly loud. They're actually one of the loudest parrots in the whole world. Definitely the loudest parrot here in Australia. They can have a call, one single bird can have a call of up to 135 decibels. To put that into perspective, a jet engine taking off is about 140 decibels. So incredibly loud. Imagine how loud a whole flock of those sulphur-crested cockatoos can be. Considering a flock of cockatoos can actually turn up in the hundreds, maybe even 200, 300 birds all together. Imagine how loud that is. That is incredibly loud. Now, I'm just going to have a quick look for those wedge-tailed eagles again. Has anybody seen them recently? Oh, they've gone out that way? Thanks, guys. I'm going to have a quick look. If they are still hanging around, we might move on to our next parrot species. We're going to have a look at another bird, have a little bit of a talk about training. Now, obviously, the birds that we're meeting today are birds that are trained to participate in the presentation. And as a zookeeper here at Zoos Victoria, animal training is actually a really important part of our job. And we train animals for all sorts of different reasons. One of those reasons is to allow our animals to participate in their own healthcare. Now, when you have an animal that will voluntarily participate in things like medical treatments and medical procedures, it makes those things much, much easier on the animals themselves, and they tend to recover a lot better and a lot faster if they're involved in their own recovery. It also makes our job as zookeepers just that little bit easier. Makes the job of the vets a little bit easier also, so it's a win-win situation. And the bird that we're about to meet is a bird that was actually brought into the vet hospital here at Healesville Sanctuary around about 15 years ago. He was brought in with a broken wing. The vets could fix the wing, but he wasn't suitable for release back out into the wild. So he's been living with us here at Spirits of the Sky ever since. He's been a part of our show for the last 15 years. I'd like to introduce you to Kevin. This is Kevin, the long-billed Corella. Now, because Kevin came down to us after having a broken wing, one of the first behaviours we trained Kevin to do was to open his wings. We needed to make sure that he could use those wings properly and that we could exercise the wings. So by asking him to open up his wings, we could do that for him. So all we need to do is just ask him to open his wings. If he opens those wings, we can check the left and right are nice and balanced. We can check the feather condition on the wings as well. We check the rest of his feather condition by asking him to turn around.
Hey.
To front. And occasionally we need to check on his feet, so we ask for his right foot and his left foot. Good job, Kev. Well done. The last behaviour we'd like you to have a look at is to step up. Now, that's a really important behaviour, and it's an important behaviour for a number of reasons. First of all, it allows us to be able to move Kevin around if we need to move him from place to place. He's quite happy sitting on the hand. We can walk around and move him to where we need to. We can also ask him to step off our hand onto all sorts of different things, including a set of scales, which means we can monitor his health through his weight, which is really important. But one of the most important things about that behaviour is the fact that it's a behaviour that we know Kevin can do, and he will do probably 90–95% of the time that we ask for it. The reason why that is so useful for it is because it allows us to use that behaviour as what we call a consent behaviour. Now, whenever we're working with our birds, we never force our birds into working with us. We never force them into participating. As I said before, it's a lot about choice and control. We give them the choice to participate. The way we do that is by using the behaviour that we know they can do and will do most of the time. So, if I was about to start a training session or even this presentation, and I came and asked him to step off on my hand to get ready, and he chooses not to, he's telling me one really simple thing. He's just telling me, no, I'm not ready to go to work. Don't want to participate in whatever it is you're asking me to do. Now, we never know the exact reason behind it. In fact, we don't care about the reason. We just know that he's not ready to work with us. So we acknowledge it, we come back a little bit later on, and we try a little bit later on, until he says yes. So it gives him the choice in his day to work with us when he's ready to work, not without that permission. So it's a really, really important tool for our birds. It's also pretty handy for us as trainers. No point working with a bird if they're not ready to work with us. How about a round of applause for Kevin? Great job today. And that is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to training for healthcare. Right across Zoos Victoria, we train a whole host of other behaviours that allow our birds to voluntarily participate in their day-to-day healthcare and allows us to improve the welfare of all of those animals. Just another quick scan for those animals that haven't seen them. Anybody seen them in the last minute or two?
No.
No? That's good. All right. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
We've had a really good look at some of our cockatoo species, and like most of our parrots, they mainly feed on fruits, nuts and seeds. But we would also like you to meet some of our birds of prey. Now, a bird of prey is any bird that eats other animals, so magpies, currawongs, kookaburras, pelicans, they're all birds of prey. But we would like to show you some of our specialised birds of prey we call raptors. Now, raptors have a hooked, meat-tearing beak, and they have sharp claws on their toes we call talons that they use to catch and kill their prey. The first raptor we've got for you today is Australia's third largest raptor. This is a black-breasted buzzard, and this black-breasted buzzard's name is Bernice, the black-breasted buzzard. So I'm going to try really hard not to say that. too many times, but have a look at her relatively small body compared to her wing size. They are really well designed for soaring around on thermal currents. But as you can see, she is also quite comfortable down on the ground. And there is a really good reason for that. Black-breasted buzzards are known for raiding nests and stealing any eggs and chicks that they come across. And Australia's largest bird we have is the emu, and they nest on the ground. Pretty big birds, not surprisingly, they also have a pretty big egg. Now, an egg of an emu is about 3 or 4 days worth of food for a black-breasted buzzard. It's too hard for them to be able to break open with their beak or their feet. So if they encounter an emu egg out in the wild, there is something that they need to do in order to break it open. Now I'm hoping I can show you that behaviour. I have a replica emu egg here, and I have the tool that our black-breasted buzzard needs to break it open, and that is a rock. So when a buzzard finds an emu egg out in the wild, they will go find themselves a rock, they will smash it down just like that, and you've got food for 3 or 4 days. Now that looks like a pretty cool trick. It's actually not a trick. It's an instinctive or an innate behaviour. So when black-breasted buzzards encounter an emu egg out in the wild, they just know that that's what they need to do in order to break that egg open. Now we do also want you to see some of our nocturnal birds of prey. So Bernice is one of our diurnal raptors, so a daytime raptor, but we do also have our nocturnal birds of prey, which are known as our owls. We have 8 different species of owl here in Australia, and the owl we would like you to meet is a barking owl. I'm hoping Millie will be able to make her way out here shortly, and when she does, you'll see she's got beautiful grey mottled feathers that help her to camouflage in beautifully with her environment. They like to remain completely hidden amongst the trees so that they can be hidden from their prey. Now Millie's got these big, beautiful yellow eyes on the front of her face that essentially act like searchlights to help her find her prey. Now Millie can't see in black and white like we can. She can't see in colour like we can. She can only see in black and white, but she can see in a far greater detail and distance than we can. Now when Millie spots her prey, she will expertly dive down off a branch, weave through that forest, march like that, and catch her prey. You'll hear Millie out here today. She's making a few little chirrupy noises. They are her happy noises. She's not working all that hard, but she is getting some of her favourite treats. If Millie was in hunting mode though, she wouldn't be making a sound. Barking owls actually have frayed flight feathers and tiny down hairs on the underside of their wings that will muffle airflow. Barking owls, where they get their name from, they have a sound that is quite similar to that of a little dog barking. And males and females will actually duet that bark, with males having a much deeper sounding tone. Now there is another sound that they are quite famous for making, which is either terrifying or hilarious, depending on your perspective. No, she's no interest in flying to me now. Because her eyesight is so good, she was watching those wild eagles flying around before the presentation, and understandably, she doesn't really want to fly around too much where there's a giant big predator up above her, but I think she's done a beautiful job out here today, and she's been a very brave owl. Please give it up for Millie.
Good job singing today, Millie. Thank you. Now, barking owls are one of our top nocturnal birds of prey that we have here in Australia, and I am hoping we're going to get a chance to move back into our daytime hunters very shortly and have a look at a really close look at one of our top diurnal predators, probably our best known raptor of all here in Australia. But before we do that, we actually want to just take a little bit of extra time out of the show to slow down, stop, and actually just say thank you. We want to thank you all for coming along today to Healesville Sanctuary and being part of the Zoos Victoria family, even if it is just for one day. By being here today, you're supporting the really important work we do in conservation, helping to save a whole lot of animals out there, things like Tasmanian devils, leadbeater's possums, and 2 of the world's most endangered birds the orange-bellied parrot, and also the helmeted honeyeater. Now, we honestly couldn't do any of this vital work without you, and in particular, we want to acknowledge our Zoos Victoria members. I can see quite a few of you out there today. Thank you so much for your visit. Hopefully you're enjoying your day and the benefits. And we just want to say a really big thank you so much. We are working with 27 different species of wildlife now, trying to prevent them from going extinct here in Victoria, ranging from the Lord Howe Island stick insects, one of our invertebrates, right up to our large Tasmanian devils and a whole bunch of things in between. Small mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, all sorts of different things. And just by being here today, you are now all a part of saving those 27 different species. So thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as I said, I'm hoping we're going to get a nice close look at another one of our diurnal raptors. I think some of you are probably starting to guess who I'm talking about already. If they're not our best known raptor of all, they're definitely our largest raptor. That should give you a clue, considering we saw one a little bit earlier. I'm hoping we'll get a nice close look at a bird that's got a wingspan of 2.5 metres, a nice long wedge or diamond shape. Maybe when they get the name right. I'm hoping we're going to get a chance to meet our wedge-tailed eagle Macra. If she chooses to make her way out, you'll see she's a really good bird. Also a very dark coloured bird as well. And of course the wind picks up now, makes it even more difficult for Macra to get around today. Now Macra is actually 27 years old. The wedge-tailed eagles get darker and darker as they get older and older. So she's almost black all over. If you see a lighter coloured wedge-tailed eagle than Macra, what you're most likely looking at is a younger bird, possibly under 7 years old. Once they get to 7, they start maturing. And each time they molt out their feathers, the next ones will grow back just a little bit darker than the ones before. Now she's looking around quite a lot. She knows those other eagles are around. And wedge-tailed eagles are extremely territorial birds. So she's just trying to make sure those eagles are staying far enough away from her. You'll see her watching and looking around all the time while she's out here. But the black-breasted buzzard that we saw a little bit earlier is one of the birds that's really well adapted for a gliding and soaring type of flight. These wedge-tailed eagles, though, they take it to the next level. They use that massive wingspan of up to 2.5 metres to take advantage of any rising currents of air. It could just be a wind current or something like a thermal current. All they need to do is fly over to where that current is. They set those massive wings out and they allow that wind or that air just to push them up. If you see them out in the wild, quite often you'll see they're just circling. It looks like they're circling in the one spot. But if you watch closely enough, you'll see that each circle is just a little bit higher than the last. They'll keep getting higher and higher and higher until they get to the top of that thermal. Then they just drift off that one until they find another one, which will push them up again. They'll drift off that until they find another one. And they will do that, or they can do that, literally for hours and hours on end and not have to flap their wings at all. So it's an incredibly energy efficient way of covering very, very large distances. It also allows them to start their hunting process. They've got amazing eyesight, so they can sit up on top of one of those thermals and scan a massive area of land. They can actually see a moving rabbit from over 1 kilometre away. So they can scan a massive area of land looking for things like rabbits, bandicoots, other birds, reptiles, pretty much anything that they can overpower, right up to the size, as I said before, of an adult wallaby. All those incredibly powerful hunters. Now, although they're really big birds, you might have noticed before with the other ones flying over, when they're up really high, it's hard to pick the size of them. But one of the best ways to help you identify them is to look at that tail shape. They have a very obvious diamond or a wedge shape in the tail, which hopefully we'll get a chance to have a look at today. I'm going to see if I can ask Margaret to make her way up onto this branch here. If she comes in and lands, you'll see her fan that tail out and you'll see that shape in the tail that I'm talking about, that diamond or that wedge shape. The best way to help you identify one of these birds if you think you've seen one. How about a big round of applause for Max today? Those wild eagles were out a little bit earlier. Do keep your eyes open for those wild eagles as you're walking around. We're seeing them pretty much all day, every day. They have made the sanctuary their home. It's coming into breeding season at the moment, so We are seeing some really interesting territorial and breeding behaviours, sometimes very low, and they're behaviours that you wouldn't normally get a chance to see with red-tailed eagles. Usually they're quite secretive. So well worth your while just stopping and watching them for 2 or 3 minutes. It's amazing birds to see. But hopefully today you enjoyed meeting our beautiful red-tailed eagle Madra. We also hope you enjoyed meeting the rest of the spirits of the sky too.
Thank you so much for coming out to Healesville Sanctuary today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.